Practice as many problems as it takes. Let's go ahead and simplify some different kind of expressions. I'm just going to write something down. We're going to try to simplify it. 3x plus 7 plus 4x minus 3. Okay, how do we simplify that? Well, first of all, this looks complicated because I've got these parentheses here. But let me ask you, are the parentheses really needed? All the parentheses are telling me is to do the operation inside first. I can't add 3x to 7 directly. I just can't do it because there's no x behind the 7. And I can't add 4x and this negative 3 because there's no x behind the 3. They have to be identical. So there's nothing to do inside these parentheses. Even though they're written with parentheses, there's nothing to do. So I can just rewrite this problem. 3x plus 7 plus 4x minus 3. And all I've done is I remove the parentheses because there's no exponent, there's no number out front to distribute in, there's nothing to do, you just rewrite it. Okay? So now you got to collect like terms here. This is a like term with this, okay, because I've got an x in each case. Likewise, this is a like term with this because they're just numbers. So if I wanted to actually finish this problem off, 3x plus 4x is 7x, and 7 quote correction minus 3 is 4. So the answer is 7x plus 4. All I did was group the like terms together and carry on. That was it. What if I have 4a plus 3 minus 2a minus 4? Okay? Same story. I can't really add these together because they don't have the same variables. I can't really add or subtract these together because they don't have any of the same variables. So I'm just going to remove these parentheses. 4a plus 3, and now here's something a little bit tricky. This is minus, and minus everything in parentheses here. So this is sort of like negative 1 sitting out here in front of this parentheses. So I need to distribute this negative side in, just like it was a negative 1. I need to distribute that into both terms. Negative 1 times positive 2a is negative 2a. So I write negative 2a. Negative 1, because this is kind of like having a negative 1 out here. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. So see, that changes everything. That's crucial. You need to make sure you realize when there's negatives out here in front of parentheses, you got to treat it as a distributive thing and distribute the negative 1 in. Now, 4a is a like term with negative 2a. These can be added because the variables are the same. And of course, 3 can be added with 4 because they're numbers. So, 4 minus 2 is 2a, and 3 plus 4 is positive 7. The answer is 2a plus 7. Not too bad. You just got to be real careful and take everything one step at a time. Don't get in a rush to start adding things up. Make sure that, you know, the biggest problem I see with new students of algebra is trying to skip steps because it looks deceptively simple sometimes. It's like, oh, I can just go ahead and add these up. But you got to be careful. Sometimes you have negative signs that get in the way and they totally change the answer because negative makes it negative. All right, what if I have something like 3x squared minus 3x minus 2 plus 3x squared plus 4x minus 3? Well, let me ask you. Normally you do whatever is in the parentheses first, but can you really add these together? No, because I've got an x squared, I've got an x, and then here I don't even have a variable. So I really can't add these outright. There's nothing to do here. Same story here. The variables with the exponents, they're not the same. I can't really add them. So I'm just going to strip the parentheses right off. I'm going to rewrite it. 3x squared minus 3x minus 2 plus 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. All I did was just write it left to right and take the parentheses out. What do you do next? You group the like terms together. This is a like term with this because they both involve x squared. So let me write that down. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6x squared. This is a like term with this and this, because they both involve x. Negative 3 plus 4 is plus 1x. I'm just going to write it as plus x. You can think of it as negative 3 plus 4, or you can think of it as 4 minus 3, which is simply 1x. And finally, this is a like term with this, negative 2 minus 3, which is negative 5. So that's the answer, 6x squared plus x minus 5. That is the answer to this simplification here. Okay? And what if I have something like 2b squared plus 3b minus 5 minus 2b squared minus 4b minus 9. I really can't add these up in the middle because they don't all have the same variable, and I really can't add these up because they don't all have the same variable. Same story as the other problem. So I'm going to go ahead and start stripping off the parentheses. However, notice there's a negative sign here. This is a subtraction, not an addition. So this is kind of like having negative 1 out here times this business, which means this negative is going to need to be distributed in just like a negative 1 multiplied by each of these terms. So let me just start from the left. 2b squared plus 3b minus 5. Okay? And let me work on this. Negative 1 times 2b squared is negative 2b squared. Negative times positive is a negative. Negative 1 times negative 4b is positive 4b. Negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9. So now I'm left with this. I got to group my like terms. I've got a 2b here, and I've got a negative 2b here. 2b squared minus 2b squared is simply going to be 0 because 2 minus 2 is 0. So I'm just going to draw a line through this, and I'm going to draw a line through that. They disappear because 2b squared minus 2b squared is simply 0, so that goes away. This is a like term with this, 3b and 4b. 3b plus 4b is 7b. 3 plus 4 is 7, and I just keep the b along for the ride. And then finally, the only thing left here is this negative 5 is a like term with the 9. Okay, so negative 5 plus 9 is the same thing as 9 minus 5, which is simply positive 4. And so this would be the answer, 7b plus 4. So as you can see, it's challenging sometimes to keep the signs straight, but it's definitely not impossible. It's definitely workable. And the biggest thing is to work a lot of problems, and even bigger than that is to take your time and write out every single step. Because I guarantee you, if you start skipping steps, if you start trying to say, oh, I remember this is negative here, and you just forget, you're never going to get it right. All right, let's move on to something, same thing, still simplifying, but just a little bit different kind of problem. 2 parentheses x plus 3 plus 3 parentheses x plus 3. And I want to simplify this expression. So I'll put an equal sign there. Now, I have x plus 3. I can't really simplify that because you have to have x in both places, and it's not, so you can't add it. Same story here. Can't really do that. But I do have a number outside of a parenthesis, so I can use the distributive property, remember, to distribute this 2 in. 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times 3 is 6 plus 3 times x is 3x plus 3 times 3 is 9. You see, all we did was just distribute the whatever's on the outside to the inside. 2 times x, 2x, 2 times 3, 6, 3 times x, 3x, 3 times 3, 9. Now it looks familiar. Okay, so I'm going to write an equal sign here. 2x, this is a like term with this. 2x plus 3x is 5x. And 6 plus 9 is plus 15. And that's the answer. This mess, when you simplify it, is equal to that. Notice we can't simplify this anymore because you need an x in both spots, and there just isn't one. Okay. let's work on a different problem. Negative 8 parentheses x minus y plus 11 parentheses x minus y. Okay. How do we do this problem? Well, it's the same story. I can't do anything inside because the variables are different. I can't subtract these. I can't subtract these. But I can distribute the stuff inside. Okay. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 times negative y is positive 8y. Plus 11 times x is simply 11x. And then I've got 11 times negative y, which is negative 11y, because negative times positive is negative. Now, this is going to equal, I got to collect my like terms. Negative 8x is a like term with 11x, because they both have x. Negative 8x plus 11x is the same thing as 11x minus 8x. So I can just say 11 minus 8, which is 3x. And of course, 8y is a like term with negative 11y. So I can say 8 minus 11, that's simply equal to negative 3y. So it's 3x minus 3y. All I did here was take these two terms and add them together. And so negative 8 plus 11 gives me positive 3. And these two terms, which are like terms, positive 8 minus 11 gives me negative 3. And if you're confused on how the signs work as far as this stuff, go back to the video dealing with how to add and subtract negative numbers, and that'll refresh your memory. Okay, I've got one more problem in this section. I think we pretty much beat this to death as far as how to do it. We've got one more problem, and then we'll be done with how to add and subtract polynomials. Next section, we'll be talking about how to multiply polynomials, and eventually how to divide them too. And we'll graph them and do all kinds of other neat things. Let's take a massive problem. Why not? 3y parentheses x times y plus y minus 2y squared parentheses x minus 4 plus y plus 2 parentheses y to the third plus y squared. And we want to simplify that. And you're looking at that and you're like, oh my goodness, what do I do first? First thing you do is you look in the parentheses. Can I simplify anything in there? I can't simplify anything here because I've got an x times a y and I've got a y. They have to have exactly the same number of variables, exactly the same exponents, and these do not, so I cannot add them. I can't add anything in here because I've got an x here, no variable here, and a y here. There's no way to add these. And I cannot add these because even though they both involve y, one is y to the third and one is y squared, so I cannot add them. So forget about simplifying the parentheses. But I can distribute each of these terms in. I'll distribute the 3y into this. So let's do that. 3y times x times y is going to be 3x times y squared. Now let's take our time here. Why is it equal to this? The 3 is just sitting there, the x is sitting there, and I've got a y times a y, and remember the definition of y times y is y squared, so I just put a y squared there, okay? Plus 3y times y. 3 is equal to 3y squared, because the 3 just comes along for the ride. Y times y, again, is y squared. Let me continue. Negative 2y squared times x is simply negative 2y squared times x. There's nothing else to do there. You just stick them together because I can't really add any exponents or do anything simple. It's negative 2y squared times x. Now let me distribute this into the middle. This is a negative